All right, so we're going to go ahead and start reviewing Unit 3. Let's start with the FRQ. Let me pull that up real quick. All right, so the U.S. was producing above full employment. I'm going to go ahead and read the question to you guys, right? The U.S. was producing at above full employment with very low unemployment and high output at 10 billion, long-run aggregate supply at 8 billion, okay? All right, so first you see that question. I think the first thing you need to do is you need to draw out an inflationary gap, right? So let me get my whiteboard real quick. Hold on, guys. All right, here we go. All right, so let's draw this out real quick. That's dead. AS, AD, RAS. This price level. This is real GDP. This is 10 billion. This is 8, right? Okay. All right. So you see, that's the first part of the question. That's the first thing I would have done, right? And then, all right. So with very low, okay. So recently it experienced a pandemic and has stopped all businesses from producing and selling, 5 billion. Okay. The government wants to consider two options it has for fiscal policy. All right. So if businesses have stopped selling and producing, that's going to shift aggregate demand, right? So your AD curve will get shifted back, right? AD. And it tells you it's shifted to 5 billion. So this is, okay, wow, cool, pretty good backwards. All right, so to 5 billion, right? And so now the government wants to get back to, let's see, it wants to get back to full employment. All right. The government wants to consider the two options it has for fiscal policy with knowing that it can give a stimulus check. It will spend 80% of it and save the rest. Okay, so there you go. All right, so now, what are the two things that a government can do? Wouldn't it be supplying? Yeah. All right. If you shifted aggregate supply, Annika, like, yes, I'll take that. But since it was stopped spending, I think spending is going to be the primary move. Like, spending is going to move. They both would move, right? But spending would move, or we're going to go with aggregate demand. Okay. And that's just part of the question. Me writing the question back, guys. Sorry. So if you shifted aggregate supply, I'll grade it that way, but let me just do it this way. Because you'd actually shift both curves. So, all right. But that's not something that's really covered in this class. So that's why, just don't worry, don't focus too much on it. Either you shift your aggregate supply or aggregate demand. All right. And you can think of it this way too. Spending, they actually stopped spending first, right, before they stopped production. Because things were still being produced, right, and even you don't have to have as many men or women, right? Not a guy girl thing, but to produce things because of machineries and stuff like that. hopefully that explanation works. All right. Yes. So let's go ahead and just move along, right? So yes, Alyssa, you can decrease taxes or increase government spending. So now, I told you what the MPS and the MPC were, right? And so we know that they're going to spend 80% of the stimulus check, and they're going to save 20% of the check, right? Is that how I wrote it? Yeah. So they would spend 80, save 20, right? So the MPC, remember, let's do taxing multiplier first. So taxing multiplier is just going to be the MPC over MPS. And so that's going to be 0.8 over 0.2, right? So that's going to be 4. And that's going to be our taxing multiplier, right? So our taxing multiplier will be 4. So they need to decrease taxes by an amount that you can multiply by 4 to get or to close this $3 billion gap, right? That I'm going to need a little calculator for, right? Maybe 75, 8, no. What is it? 30 divided by 4, 7.25, 72.5. Is that the correct answer? Are you guys following me? This is so different because you guys aren't actually talking, like, so you guys are typing this out. So that's why. All right. So it is 3 divided by, 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. So 7.5. So they need to spend 0.75 billion or cut taxes by what is that? $750 million dollars. They need to cut taxes by that to shift the curve back to our long run aggregate supply curve, right? Now, the other way that they could do is they could increase government spending, right? And so, kind of funny thing is that stimulus checks are actually government spending. So, another mistake in this question, right? But so would it be 700 or billion? No, because it would be, you want 3 billion, right? So 0.75 would be million, right? Multiply 750 million times 3 or times 4. I'm sorry, and see what that gives you. Should give you 3 billion. All right, now you're good, Alyssa. All right. Anyway, so well, let's just imagine whatever that the stimulus check is not government spending, right? And so they decide to government spend, and we have the MPC and the MPS, right? So the MPC, so what we're gonna do is gonna be 1 over MPS. So 1 over 0.2, 1 over 0.2 is 5, or you could just take the taxing multiplier and then just increase it by 1, right? And so that gives you the government, the multiplier, right? The spending multiplier. So the spending multiplier is going to be 1 over the taxing multiplier. So that'll be 5, right? So now what is 30 billion, or I'm sorry, 3 billion? Government needs to spend how much to cut that, So the government spending was to get them back to equilibrium. Yes, you want, okay. So when you want equilibrium, is always going to be the long run aggregate supply curve. When you're producing beyond equilibrium, that means that you are like doing better than what you need to be doing, right? So you're overproducing for your economy, which is good at some points, right? For example, like it was good for us recently that we were overproducing for our economy. However, there was some mistakes in there that we could have maybe prepared ourselves for this situation better, right? I think a lot of economists would say that, hey, you know what Trump should have done is instead of saying that he was going to lower taxes, is actually increase taxes. And why would you increase taxes? You increase taxes so you can cut that deficit to debt ratio, right? So that when something like this happens, right, and you need to spend quite a bit, right, government spend quite a bit, then you can you're geared for it, right? Like you're better prepared for it, right? So that's something that a lot of economists would say, right? A lot of economists would also say that this is actually good and going to show that government spending is very important, right? Because you get a lot of politicians, right, Democrat and Republicans, that don't want to government spend, right, on particular programs or whatever. And a lot of Keynesian economists would say, hey, look, this is a good thing. This is gonna be another like point where we can show that government spending is good. And if you were listening to Paul, the last lecture, he kind of pointed to that a few times, or you can go back and check that out. So, all right. So, back to this. I'm sorry, I kind of went on a side. Yeah. Okay. So if you tried to calculate it to go back to the inflationary gap, I'll give you guys credit for that. Again, I wrote this question. I'm not a test question writer, right? I wrote it real quickly, not really thinking like things through. I was like, I need to get an FRQ out. I don't want to give them something that they've already seen. I want to give them something that they can't look up, and so that they can practice doing it. So I guess this is good because it gives us a chance to kind of look at different things. And if you're seeing the mistakes that I made in writing the question, that's actually a good thing, because then you really understand this concept. Okay. All right. Let's go back to it. Okay. I think that answers all of the FRQ. Is there any questions about that FRQ? Okay, does anybody have a specific question that, oh, what was the government spending amount? I'm sorry, guys. Let me look real quick. Let me just use my calculator. So it's 3 billion, and then so you divide 3 by the multiplier, right? 0.6. So 0.6 of a billion is going to be 600 million. And government spending is always going to have a greater impact than the taxing multiplier, right? Because it gets an immediate like hit to the economy, right? As where taxing, it takes like one out because you have to tax, right? So how would decreasing taxes look different on a graph? Increasing governments from increasing government spending. Well, they both, maybe I'm not understanding your question, Annika. They both would shift the curve to the right. Both are going to shift the curve to the right. So what do you mean by look different? The question is, how would decreasing taxes look different on a graph from increasing government spending? So how would those two look different on a graph? They wouldn't look different. They would actually look the exact same, in that they would both shift to the right. But maybe I'm not understanding the question. Yes, they would. They would shift the curve the same way. So let me show you here. So this is AD2, this is AD1, and then so we want AD3. Do you guys kind of see that one in the middle there? So regardless if this is government spending or this is a decrease in taxes, that's going to shift this. Now, how would that impact the equation for AD? Maybe that's your question, Annika. Is that if you decrease government taxes, if you increase government spending, that's going to increase G, right? Now, if you decrease taxes, that's going to give to other groups an opportunity to spend more money, right? If I were to tell you, like, hey, Annika, you don't have to pay taxes anymore, you have more disposable income. So now you have more disposable income. So you are going to most likely spend more, right? Or save, whatever, right? Like, probably good for you to save, but for the economy, good for you to spend, right? And so, but most people are going to spend that money if they decrease the taxes. And then businesses, if you decrease business taxes, well, then investment's going to increase, right? They're going to take out more loans because they have more capital. They can buy more things, right? Spend more things. So government or businesses would then turn and start buying more stuff, right? So that would shift the curve. That would be the reason why we shift the curve for decreasing taxes and increasing government spending. Does that maybe better answer your question, Annika? Okay, yeah. I think that's what you were asking, but I wasn't too sure. They shift the curve the same way because we are calculating them back to equilibrium. Yes, that is correct, Alyssa. They both are going to shift because, like, I think what Annika is getting is like the AD equation, right? So like C plus I plus G plus XN, right? So like, why would they both move? Like, like, since we're decreasing one and increasing the other, like, why would they both move to the right? Like, I get maybe there's a little confusion in that, but I think we kind of cleared that up. Is that true, Annika? We good there? Yeah. Okay. I think that was a yeah from earlier, but I'll take that yeah now. Okay. All right. What other questions do we have? That's the FRQ, right? Again, you know, you guys know I wrote it. So how about the test? Does anybody want to just look at their test real quick and see what if there's any questions about their test that they may have? It wasn't open for 8th period? Oh, did I only do it for? All right. You know what? Disable submissions. No, enable submissions. That's what I want. View what the correct answers. Okay. Alyssa, you should be able to check it out now. And then first period, let me go back because of the whatever, since I set a time. It okay, save changes. All right. I do miss you guys. Let me tell you that. Right. I'm sure you guys miss me too. Well, hopefully. All right. Can we go over this question? Okay. Is that the exact question, Annika? You know what? Can you just copy paste the question? Because I don't want to go through the 45 questions to look for it. That's it? Okay. If government expenditures and taxes are increased by the same amount, which of the following will occur? Okay. So remember that government expenditures is government spending, right? Expenditures is just spending, right? Yes. Just a fancy way of saying it. And then taxes, right? So just by reading the question without looking at the answers, what's going to increase more? What's going to have a greater effect on the economy? Government spending or decreasing taxes? It should be that government spending is going to increase GDP at a higher impact than taxes, right? And that's because the multiplier is greater. Okay, so aggregate supply will decrease. No, so we know what is the shifters for aggregate supply? It's RAP, production, actions of the government, right? And then I'm sorry, resources, action of the government, and productivity, right? With technology. So that is not going to shift aggregate supply. So we can automatically eliminate option A. We can eliminate, okay, option B. Why does it say this answer is incorrect? Okay. Okay. All right, whatever. Is that in the test? Question B? Huh. Okay. Why did I put that? Well, okay, yeah. Why would I put that? Huh. Yeah, well, aggregate demand would increase, right? I mean, that is the correct answer. I don't know why I just gave you an answer, but there you go, right? Maybe I was frustrated with my class last. I don't have that on my test. That's weird. Annika or Alyssa, you have that on your test? Uh, huh. Oh, okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. It's like, wow, what did I do there? Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so aggregate demand would increase, right? And we know that. Why would aggregate demand increase? Because it's government spending, right? Government spending is G of our AD equation. So um, if you decrease taxes, right, that's going to increase CNI. If you increase government spending, that's going to increase G. Yes, is that clear? Did we clear that up for everybody? Okay, cool. Any other questions? Or well, not any other questions, but what's next? What are the questions do we have? Okay. Okay, a change in which of the following would increase the short run aggregate supply curve? Okay, so again, what are the shifters for aggregate supply? They're RAP. And what is it? Someone type those out. Ah, that one's pretty easy. Look, okay, let's yeah, resource prices, actions of the government, and productivity, right? Okay, so let's just look at that question again, Alyssa and everybody, if you want to check this out, right? So a change in which of the following would increase short run aggregate supply. Okay, so we want to know what's going to increase aggregate supply, right? Well, we know that that one is incorrect, right? An increase in consumer spending. Why do we know that's incorrect? We know that that's incorrect because that is going to shift aggregate demand. Okay. Then if we jump down to number four, okay, an increase in capital stock. An increase in capital stock is going to increase the long run and aggregate supply curve, right? So you have more capital stock, that's going to increase the LRAS. Okay. So decreasing capital stock would decrease the LRS. Yeah, just remember that the long run aggregate supply is capital stock. Like that's, you just equate those two, capital stock. Or you can look at the PPC and remember the shifters for the PPC, and that's going to shift the long run aggregate supply curve. Cool. But then you look at if you know those two, like then looking at a decrease in labor productivity, we're talking about the supply curve. So if you have people not producing as much, that's going to decrease your aggregate supply. So that'll push it to the left. We want an increase, a push to the right. So things become cheaper, right? Like right now, like for example, right now, gas prices are like super, super low. So because they're super low, when we start producing again and we start getting back to where our production is, then prices should decrease, right? Or we should start producing more, supplying more because our resources is cheaper, okay? Does it increase? Oh, capital stock. No, but you mostly get capital stock from aggregate demand from investment. So you would see like some movement with the AD curve. Yeah, it was okay. So that is there to like make sure that you know what capital stock is and that it affects long run aggregate supply, and you should be able to know that that's an incorrect answer, right? It's a distractor, right? Like for example, if you looked at number one, decrease in consumer spending, you should know that's also a distractor because you should know that consumer spending is a AD shifter. It's saying the correct answer is 2 and 4. Oh no, the correct answer is only 2. Let me change that real quick. Yeah, the correct answer is only 2, guys. Hold on. Hold on. No, it would most certainly not be 3 because remember that productivity. Let me open these real quick. Productivity. The productivity. If you decrease productivity, they're going to be working less, right? You got to increase productivity. They want to increase the curve. Yeah. Okay. Let me just think about this for a second, Annika. I think just right off the bat, yeah, it is. It's only 2 is correct. But why would a capital stock? No, it's only 2. 2 is the correct answer. Okay. Let me change that real quick for you guys. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh man. Oh, you know what? It'll look like that. That'll make it easier. Start looking for other questions that you guys want answered. While I fix, I think if I fix this here, it should adjust your grades right away. Did everybody get that question? I feel like everybody should have different questions. Nope. No, I'm not able to change it because of the way I set it up to make it random. I'll adjust your guys' grades, Annika, and I'll just put a curve on the test. Let's just do that. What's up?
This is Rosa. Do you think I can leave because I have class at 10?
Yeah, for sure. You're good.
Oh.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See ya. You too. All right. Suppose that from 2014 to 2015, unemployment fell from 7.2 to 5.6, and okay. See you, Vernie. 5.6, and inflation fell from 2.7 to 1.1. Hey guys, before you guys leave, we will do tomorrow at 3, okay? And then I'll put it up, and then we'll start unit 4, okay? I'll send a remind out as well. An explanation. Okay, so okay, who asked this question? Annika. Okay, so Annika, real quick, the unemployment fell, right? So if unemployment fell, that means that more people are working. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. More people are working. You give everybody in the United States $1 or $1 million. So now the 350 billion people that live, or whatever the number is, that live in the United States, now they all have $1 million each. What's going to happen to prices? They go up, right, because of inflation. So,
Mr. Jaeger, is it cool if I leave? I have a class.
Yeah. Anybody that needs to leave, you guys are more than welcome to take off. To remember, tomorrow at 4, we're going to start unit 4. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You
have
got
a
it,
good
brother.
day.
Take care, man. All right, where did this question go? Okay, so an explanation of these changes, inflation fell from, okay, so now what it's saying, what the question is saying is that inflation decreased, okay? So how do we get a decrease? We want to lower unemployment, but decrease inflation, okay? Well, let's look at this. Draw an ADAS model on your paper real quick. And so you can see inflation here. Let me show you. This is a perfect question for this, right? So that we really understand what the ADAS model is telling us, okay? Or some things that the ADAS model is telling us. ADAS. Okay, price level equal. Okay, this is Y. Okay, we see this here, right? Okay, so here we're at full employment, right? And what it's telling us from the question is that unemployment dropped, right? So if unemployment drops, we're going to move in this direction, right? Now, our equilibrium point will be to the right, right? So we'll be in an inflationary gap, okay? Now, we want to see that price levels decrease. So, or you want to see inflation go down. Now, how do we gauge inflation on the ADAS model? Well, you have price levels. So this is inflation, right? If you go up, this is deflation, or price levels decreasing going down, right? So how can we get to somewhere where you have increased unemployment but price levels going down? So if you start at this point, how can we get to where we start seeing decrease, like on this quadrant over here, right? Or this half over here, where can we see price levels going down? Where are you going to need to be on? Yeah, the AD. I don't know if that made sense, right? So what are we going to need to shift, right? So we're going to need to shift aggregate supply. Aggregate supply would need to shift to the right. That decreases price levels, right? And that increases or decreases price levels, it decreases your unemployment rate, right? And so, yeah, there you go. And that would be the correct answer. So an aggregate supply shift to the I'm sorry, to the right. Okay. So that would be, yeah, letter D. Letter D would be the correct answer. Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Hanukkah? Don't feel pressured. I'm cool if you got more questions. All right. Well, Ms. Hanukkah, hey, you know what? Here, let me, what I did want to tell you is like that question that you asked.